welcome everybody here to the X-Bomb Sports live show. My name is Andrew Valentin, and I hope you all are having a wonderful Wednesday. We are coming to you live here from the Illinois Media School here in Lombard, Illinois. Again, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen, day or night, I hope it is just right. And as you can see, unfortunately, I am all by my lonesome once again. Yeah, unfortunately, Drew could not be here today. Pressing matters with work, of course, as we all know. Got to pay those bills. But with me still, ladies and gentlemen, as always, ever fantastic, ever knowledgeable, knows his stuff, does his thing in the back, and so much more. Mr. TJ Knacker is with us. TJ, man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well on this snowy day.
Yes, absolutely. It is far too much snow that's been falling right now. I mean, granted, the roads aren't too terrible out here in Illinois. I'm sure they're worse around the rest of the Midwest. But for where we are right now, it's not too bad, but it's getting out of here now that might be an issue. Well, fingers crossed, of course. But, folks, we've got a ton of news to talk about. Obviously, yesterday, some pressing issues came about, which unfortunately did not allow us to be able to do the show. But we're here. We're going to do a giant kind of recap of what's been going on, try to kind of keep ourselves in the mix of what's been happening here. TJ, my man, are you ready to do this, man?
I'm ready.
Let's then do this, folks. So we are kicking this one off with the NFL, and we are starting it off with what I'm calling Monday Night Maniac. So if you're unaware, Aaron Rodgers, of course, this is, of course, about Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay Packers star quarterback Aaron Rodgers put out a very cryptic tweet and message on Instagram. He put it all over social media, calling it his Monday night thankfulness or something like that. Something to that degree. A total, just very sappy kind of like, oh, how beautiful a tale, if you will. Monday Night Gratitude is what he called it. Monday Night Gratitude. So in it, he was saying things about, thank you to Shailene Woodley, his ex-fiance, thank you to the Packers, the fans, all this kind of stuff. Very, very cryptic, writing in this message. And certainly now has thrown quite a bit of the media into this buzz about what exactly is going on here with Aaron Rodgers. But before I give my take on it, TJ, I'm sure you're very aware of what Rodgers by now has put out there. And just knowing everything we've kind of discussed about this man, thinking it was finally going to go away. No, we were wrong. He's not going anywhere. But what are your thoughts on this message with Aaron Rodgers? Do you think that this is potentially a goodbye from the Packers, maybe a goodbye from the NFL? Or do you think that maybe this is just one of his shenanigans potentially to kind of keep his name in the media's mouths?
Well, I don't know if you saw that he went on Pat McAfee's
Yes.
thing and said that it was part of the end of his cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of the showing gratitude to other people and other people that have been in his life and how great he feels for those people to be there and to have helped him. I don't know. I mean, that really seems like something that someone does either when they're getting like mental or like some sort of substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those steps in there, I believe. But it's like, did you have to make that up? Like, it seems like his PR people are on like 24/7, just trying to figure out how to explain what he does.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, well, you're into holistics, so it was part of your cleanse, and everyone should know that because if they don't, they're ignorant.
Right.
So
It's weird that he used that the cleanse thing, right? That's such a weird. I mean, listen, he's clearly kind of running this. How do I want to say this? Like an alternative lifestyle, I guess. I don't mean any disrespect by that, but like clearly he's not doing the norm, right? He's experimenting with like the whole COVID thing and everything, right? The holistic medicine stuff, and trying to find things that are certainly going to be more pure. There's a lot of people, obviously, including ourselves, that were talking about, with Shailene Woodley. She's very much into this. Was she introducing him into this stuff? Was this something that he was already getting into? I mean, let's not forget he's from Northern California, where they're very much, very peace and love and kind of calm and tranquility kind of stuff, right? That's kind of the feeling I've gotten when I've been to California, and I've been to Northern California. Not a lot, but I've gotten the feeling like Northern California certainly has a very quiet, somber feel to itself, right? Southern California definitely feels like Party City. It feels like it's fun, it's entertainment, right? That's Southern California for you. But with Aaron Rodgers in this tweet, I would love to think that this is somehow like him going through maybe this cleanse, if you will, right? Trying to exorcise his demons, if we could quote Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. I just I don't know if I can believe that with this guy or not, because we've heard so much stuff from him. I mean, the whole thing about, obviously he says he's immunized or whatever he used, immunized. And then, it come to find out that he used that word so that he doesn't have to say he's vaccinated. And we find out obviously he's not vaccinated, and that becomes an issue. And I'm not going to get into all that and all that vaccination stuff. I'm not going to jump into that, but I'm just saying that because of the fact that basically he did lie. He did lie. He did not. He used language that he knew was going to keep people's minds on the in that area of, oh, so he's vaccinated. He didn't say it, but obviously he used those words. That to me says that this could be anything, right? This could be him maybe saying his goodbye to the Packers. This maybe could be his retirement situation. I'm kind of leaning more towards, though, that this is Aaron Rodgers just kind of being funny, right? This is just him kind of putting himself back in the media. I think it was Rob Parker on The Odd Couple on Fox Sports Radio. I believe I heard him say that he called Aaron Rodgers an attention whore. Excuse my language on that, but that's what he said. He's grabbing for the attention. He loves the spotlight. And I think we all do, right? We all have an ego. We all want to be center stage. We all want to be paid the big bucks, right? But when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, there certainly feels like it's very inflated. I've said this multiple times. I think he's very egotistical, self-absorbed, arrogant. His entire lifestyle is built around him. I mean, if you want a perfect example, right? How many relationships has he now gone through? 3, right? All of them with top, very attractive, top-tier women in the acting industry or in the sports industry, right? Olivia Munn for 5 years, and then it broke off, and we found out that it was Olivia Munn who broke it off. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers. Dated Danica Patrick for like 6 months, and then they broke up. And then Aaron Rodgers is out there saying, I can finally be myself. But then we kind of found out, like, Danica kind of got sick of his stuff. I'm wondering now if Shailene Woodley was maybe kind of like in the same boat, where she's kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I can do this with this guy. Like, at that point, you do kind of have to wonder, maybe you're the problem, right? At some point, you got to say to yourself, like, okay, is it you or is it them? Well, if they're the ones always breaking up with you, perhaps it is you and not them. So I don't know what to make of this. I don't know. To me, I feel like this is just him grasping at straws to put himself in the mouth of the media so that we can continue to talk about him, so he gets better publicity, so the Packers feel more pressure to do whatever it takes to keep him. Because one thing we can also notice, you can know about this, with the ego comes the image, the idea of your self-image, right? You're very aware of your self-image. You're very aware of who you are and what you're capable of. He knows he leaves Green Bay. It's like Brett Favre all over again. It's like Judas. And it's already like he's not very well liked in Green Bay as it is. You're already not as, what am I trying to find the word? He's not as integrated into the city of Green Bay like Brett Favre is, right? Brett Favre has his own street. Brett Favre has busts all over the place. He has imagery everywhere. He is so entwined in Green Bay. Aaron is just like, you see the guys wearing the jersey. Maybe you see his face on a poster or something. And that's kind of it. There's not a lot of Aaron Rodgers stuff kind of all over the place, right? So I don't know. I don't know really what to make of this as a whole, but we'll see what Aaron Rodgers does. I'm fully content to say that I think he stays. TJ, real quick before we get on to the next one, do you think that this Aaron Rodgers is staying in Green Bay, or do you think he's leaving?
I think this media move was for him to kind of test the waters and see what was going to happen if he said kind of like a soft goodbye to these people and said, "Well, thanks for everyone, thanks for all of the fans for coming out," and then all of a sudden it's like, "Hey, so I said goodbye. This is the preemptive to the newspaper article with big picture of me, waving goodbye to you.
Hmm.
What's going to happen?" And all of a sudden media and probably everyone in Green Bay were like, no, 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 no. Hold on. What are your demands, sir? Well, what do you want? You want another wide receiver? Well, we really can't afford that. Oh, no, no. Oh, you're going to leave? Okay, wait. We can probably find one. We just need to get a couple more shareholders in here to buy stock, and we'll be able to get you that wide receiver. So I think he holds him hostage until probably I would say June. You won't have a defined answer unless Green Bay kind of gets a nice little set, and they say, "Hey, you know what? You really fit in with San Francisco. We're trading you for Jimmy Garoppolo." So we'll see what happens.
It's interesting when you think of the Green Bay Packers because remember this, folks. They're the only team in the NFL that doesn't have an owner. And that significantly lowers your ability to have leverage over a player, right? When you have an owner, it really helps to have the powerful billionaire at the top who can can take demand of the situation, right? I mean, for all we say for Virginia and George McCaskey, it does help to know that you have an owner that at some point is in control. Green Bay is owned by the city. That means it's a president and a committee of people that run that team, right? And like you said, TJ, it's kind of like Aaron Rodgers throwing it out there, being like, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna leave. How many people are gonna miss me?" Right? It's one of those things where like everybody always talks about. I always wonder who will attend my funeral, right? That's always like a big thing. Sometimes people think about who will be there when I pass away to kind of pay their respects. It's kind of like that, and from what I've understood from the chats and everything in Green Bay, doesn't sound like many Packer fans are really kind of saying, "Oh, please don't go." It's very divided now, where it's like people are being like, "Oh, we have to keep him," and there's another part that are like, "Pfft, good riddance. Go find a new quarterback." Maybe Jordan Love. Like I saw one guy say, "Yeah, Jordan Love maybe doesn't work, but at least he wouldn't give us a headache like this. This is a nightmare." That quote unquote from I don't remember his name, but I just remember seeing that, and I thought, "Yeah, perfect way to phrase it." So we'll see what happens with the Green Bay situation. But moving on to our next one. So Tampa Bay obviously just lost its quarterback, right? Tom Brady has retired, and now we're starting to hear some residual noise, potentially. These are just per rumored reports, or rumors slash reports, whatever you want to call them. But apparently, Tom Brady, not exactly a very big fan of what was going down in Tampa Bay. It has been since reported that obviously the Tampa Bay Buccaneers culture maybe was not as easy for Tom Brady as we would like, or maybe it was too easy, in fact, potentially for what we would have liked. Right? It it definitely feels like the Tom Brady situation in Tampa Bay, it felt like he was more of himself, right? He was looser, he was a lot happier. He felt like he wasn't crushed down by the New England way, right? We know the Patriot way, right? It's like a military type of thing. Bruce Arians is more calm, cool, collective. Let's get out of here at 5 so we can all get home and have dinner with our families, right? So maybe it was a culture shock. It feels like I don't know how true these reports are, but if this is the case, I mean, TJ, I ask you this, man. If this is true, I mean, or let me ask you this two-parter. One, do you think this is true that Tom Brady was maybe not as happy with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers culture potentially? And two, do you think that then there is a chance that Tom Brady potentially maybe does come back if that's the case because of the fact that he was just disgruntled with the Bucks? Do you think this was just a way to kind of get out of there for the time being? What are your thoughts on this just whole subject as a whole?
Well, I think he really enjoyed the change from Belichick to Bruce Arians, going from a very very strict, you leave when you are done, and we figure this all out.
Hmm.
So kind of Bruce Arians is a little more like, we'll figure this out. Hey, why don't we meet for Mai Tai and just kind of see what we can do. That whole culture, even in Tampa, is very relaxed and very, I don't want to say party, but they they're not living and dying by their football.
Right.
I
It's a
mean,
fun
it's
atmosphere.
right. Like in New England, he had that atmosphere that we live and die, and football's done. The next day, it's what are we doing about the draft?
Right.
It was whereas Tampa was like, oh, we're done with the season. Oh well, we'll worry about that. Maybe when do we have to start again?
Yeah.
We start in, maybe May,
Right.
and kind of relax because I mean that's what it is. I mean, you saw their parade.
Hmm.
They were on boats and they were sloshed. Let's be
Oh yeah.
honest. They
Absolutely.
were sloshed. I mean, and that's also a different situation that you're going from a very, very cold Tampa to our New England team where there isn't much to do, and compared to going to Tampa where I have a cousin who is a mixologist down there,
Hmm.
and she is making mixed drinks and all kinds of stuff for parties year round.
Jeez.
So there's a party every night,
Yeah.
and it's starting to bring in some of these guys that may have had those behavior problems. Maybe they partied a little too much. Maybe you
Mhm.
have an Antonio Brown that enjoyed the nightlife a little too much.
Yeah.
You ask him to come in for practice, and he goes, "I'm a little hungover," and coach goes, "Yeah, he's a little hungover. It's okay." Tom Brady screaming in that room, the war room, going, "Hey, no, we have a job to do. Get your ass in practice." So it might be a problem that maybe he was so used to that strict atmosphere that maybe Tampa was a nice vacation,
Yeah.
but not what he really wanted to be part of.
That's very well said there, TJ. That's very well said. I mean, it is hard. I definitely know because I mean, listen, I'm not Tom Brady by any means. I've never done like the whole shift to a new state kind of thing like that. Truly, when I got out of high school, I went to a public high school. Okay, I went to a public high school, and then I went to a evangelical Christian university where I played football. And I will tell you right now, the culture shock for me was like 180. I got to go to church how many times? 3 times a week. I got to take a religious studies class. I got to do all these different things that I didn't have to do, right? And it was all happening at the same time while I'm trying to play college football. It just became a lot. And eventually, of course, it just couldn't work for me. I made the decision that I had to just be a student at that time. Football career's got to go. But I mean, in that small way, I can kind of understand where coming from New England, where it's like the military, because Belichick's parents were his father was a military vet, if I'm not mistaken. Belichick was raised in a very yes sir no sir kind of household. He ran the Patriots that way, right? He was very clean cut, be well dressed, look good, look great. Make sure it's not about you. Make sure it's about the team. It's not about one person. That's why the Cam Newton thing didn't work out, because Cam loves Cam. Cam loves to be in front of that camera. He loves to be the center of attention. That's why I think the Antonio Brown thing, even if those allegations didn't come out at that time, I don't think that would have worked, because Antonio Brown, at the very center of it, I think really loves himself more than anything else. That's not going to work for the Patriots. You have got to be able to buy into their system. In Tampa, it's way more free. Like you said, TJ, it's like a party there all the time, right? It's I heard the whole. I don't know if you know this comedian John Caparulo, very funny man. He's actually from Cleveland, Ohio. He was telling a joke once about how the Browns hadn't won a Super Bowl or a championship since '65, right? And somebody said that the Chargers hadn't won one since '61 or something like that. And he goes, well, forget San Diego. When they lose, they get to go to the beach. When I lose, I still have icicles all over my body. That's kind of the feeling that you get with these two, right? In New England, you still have to deal with the cold. It's very, Boston's a very kind of New England. That New England territory is very kind of hard, dense on its sports. Tampa and even California, to a degree, it's kind of like, our sports team's lost, whatever. Let's go to the beach. Let's go to the club, right? There's a nightlife. There's something else there that'll keep you entertained. So maybe Tom Brady was not ready for the shock level adjustment of that culture. Who knows? Because to go from cold, hard New England nights to suddenly 70, 80 degrees all the time around in Florida, where the most they have to worry about is the every average hurricane that runs through 2, 3 times a year, right? That's the most you have to worry about. Otherwise, you could go down to Miami, you can go to Orlando to go to Disneyland, you could go to Jacksonville and go party even more, right? You've got all these different things. So I think for Tom Brady, I don't know how much truth there is to these. I don't know if he was ever disgruntled with it. I think this is maybe just more so maybe playing sort of a let's see if the media got it right kind of thing, right? But if there is any truth to this, I could see it, right? You could definitely see it. If you're a guy that's coming from one area for, 20 some years he was there in New England, and all of a sudden now you're coming down to Tampa and you spend 2 years here, and it's like, this is totally different. I'm not ready for this, right? And when you don't win, right? I mean, you won the Super Bowl, but if you don't go back again and you're so accustomed to doing it and you had the same team, what did you lose? You really only gained guys. So I could see it. I could definitely see it. But interesting though that Tom Brady being mixed in with this situation. I just don't buy. I'm gonna say that this is probably false, or at least it'll be downplayed as false. If there was anything to it, it's not gonna be talked about in the public, right? You're gonna hear Bruce Arians try to sell you Blaine Gabbert as a starting quarterback more than you're probably gonna hear about this story. And if you think that's not something that would happen, believe it or not, it already has. So get ready, I guess, for Blaine Gabbert, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting quarterback, possibly. It's so weird to say that. It's so weird. Though I will agree, he does have a point. He's never had a team like this. It's true. He did go through 8 coaches in 8 years. That's asinine. Nobody should do that. No player survives like that. So we'll see. We'll see. But Tom Brady, best of you with your movie career. I guess he's doing a road trip thing to the Super Bowl kind of thing. I don't know. Family vacation to the Super Bowl, I guess, is what that movie's gonna be. I don't know. I'm interested to see how much of a lame duck it might be, or maybe it'll be good. I don't know. I wasn't really impressed with LeBron's producing debut. All right. Well, last but not least, obviously in the NFL. We've talked about the Brian Flores situation, of course, the lawsuit and everything, but Brian Flores is now officially back in the NFL, folks. He has been hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers to be the senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers have officially signed him to a contract. He is now a part of the coaching staff. This comes after they had moved the original personnel in that position to the defensive coordinator spot. Sounds like the lawsuit's still going on. Obviously, a lot of people are very happy that he got this job opportunity. There's also a lot of questions, though, about, Mike Tomlin obviously being not only one of the most prominent coaches, but obviously the most prominent black coach in the NFL as well to hire Brian Flores. But TJ, I'll jump into you. Do you look at this situation and do you think there is anything else underlying in this hiring of Brian Flores? Do you think that there was something more where it was like Pittsburgh wanting maybe the publicity, or Mike Tomlin, maybe trying to lend out a helping hand? Do you think there was something more to this, or do you think that this is just Mike Tomlin saying this is a perfect piece for us to help us maybe get over the hump for the next few years? What are your thoughts with Brian Flores going to the Steelers?
Well, I think it was a great move for the Steelers because he is a defensive mind. He's very tough on his players, but he gets results. So maybe, you have a team with T.J. Watt on that defense. Maybe another voice, and maybe another solid voice in that locker room maybe helps him get better, gets him to the next level, and it kind of keeps. It allows Flores to be in the eye of the public, but not really in front of the mic.
Mm-hmm.
So he can do the lawsuit. He is still under. He can do whatever he wants to do. The Steelers are probably backing him with that. If he feels he is wrong, then you go ahead with your lawsuit. But I mean, I don't see it. I think that the Steelers saw it as a good cheap mind to bring in and let him kind of cool off in the media while he's doing all his lawsuit and they're doing all their investigations.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good move for the Steelers, certainly. I mean, listen, I've never been one who has said that I don't think Brian Flores is a good football-minded coach, right? He clearly has the ability to coach players in the game. My thing has always been, and it always comes back to that Miami Herald article, and I know people are like, well, that's little grains of salt, Andrew. That's little grains of sand. I understand that, but when, again, the local media is turning its guns on you, I feel like that is a red flag that you need to be concerned about, right? If we here in Chicago hear the Tribune, the Times, the Herald, all turning their guns on Matt Nagy, what does that tell us? Now, I know we're not a newspaper-driven society anymore, but when you read those articles or when you hear the podcasts or anything like that, or you read or you anything, you're gonna probably fall into that category, right? Of being like, oh, well, yeah, I can see why that is. Yeah, I don't like Nagy either. I'm not saying it wasn't deserved or anything, but I'm saying like that's an example, right? If the Herald's coming out and writing this article, don't tell me that other NFL teams aren't seeing that and saying, okay, maybe this guy is not the right fit. I'm not saying what happened to him was wrong if it did happen. That's certainly a situation. But listen, you're not really – I don't believe he doesn't know who Jerome Baker is. You have to know who your starters are, okay? But I can believe that there's a possibility he didn't really get to know the younger players. There is a distinct realism that he really did not want Tua. I don't really know if he did want to get Deshaun Watson instead of him. That has still yet to be uncertain of. There is a distinct reality that him and Chris Greer apparently did not agree on a lot of things. That seems to be a truth there. And listen, when you're not getting along with your employees, when you're not getting along with the guys underneath you, and you're not getting along with your boss, those are three things that are ultimately going to probably cost you your job, right? I mean, you can disagree with your boss from time to time, but let's be honest. At some point, you have to kind of be like, yes, no, yes. You can put your insight in, but if he says, let's do this, you kind of have to try and see if you can make it work. I know it may not work, but you have to try at least to make it work. When you make things difficult, it makes it a lot easier for everybody to say, let's move on. The question I have, though, is that there's this whole thing now coming out with Stephen Ross saying he wanted to hit Brian Flores to sign an NDA, possibly to, not talk about what happened with the Dolphins and stuff. And, of course, he declined on that, as well as a separation agreement that would have saved, I guess, the Dolphins a couple of bucks when they fired Brian Flores. He declined on that, and listen, if that's the case, the Dolphins haven't commented on that. They've said all the other allegations are untrue. The Stephen Ross, I'll pay you $100,000 to lose. Hey, we went on his yacht to talk about maybe getting Deshaun Watson thing. They've denied all that. This, though, they have not said anything. So I'm now leaning towards if anything did happen where he was in Miami and he's arguing with Chris Greer and all that stuff, but now you tack on the fact that this was all happening with Stephen Ross. If that is true, I can completely understand then where his frustration is, where he's going to Chris Greer saying, I can't do this, right? It might not be about players and draft picks and all that stuff. It may be about the fact like, hey, Stephen Ross is poking his fingers into me again about what I should or should not do, and I'm getting tired of it. And if that's the case, I can understand that. I can totally understand that. So, I mean, and listen, we have to wait to see if this stuff actually, if these allegations are actually true or not. As of this moment, they're still just allegations. But if this is the case, I mean, listen, it's gonna be very harsh on the NFL. But I will stick by this too. Stephen Ross may lose his team, but if Stephen Ross loses his team before Dan Snyder does, that's a huge disappointment in the NFL. That's a huge black mark on the NFL then. Because as much as Stephen Ross has not done good here, this doesn't look good for him at all. What Dan Snyder has done is way worse than just like tampering or whatever you want to call this situation that's going on in Miami. This is peanuts compared to what the Washington football team have to deal with right now. But listen, he's in Pittsburgh. There's a good possibility that the wheel of head coaching has officially been spun. If he does well in in Pittsburgh, right? He proves himself again, like he did in New England. He could get another shot, right? He could get another opportunity. There's a very distinct possibility. And I mean, TJ, I'll ask you this. I mean, let's say that Pittsburgh, he gets into Pittsburgh there, right? You got TJ Watt, Devin Bush Jr., Alonzo Highsmith Jr. has really come along. You've got some really solid backers there, right? He's going to be the linebacker coach, as well as the senior defensive assistant. If this team performs, do you think by next year or in the next couple years, Brian Flores will be back in the conversation as a head coach? Or do you think that because of this lawsuit, there's a chance that he could still be kind of blackballed, if you will, from being a head coach? What do you think?
So I think that he will be in the conversation for a head coaching job, but I don't think he'll get it because of the lawsuit.
Okay.
I could see him possibly getting a job, and I don't know what it is. It maybe a job that he's a head coach for, let's say, as you spoke of before, like a Redskins or like a Raiders that are having problems with and have had. So maybe this would be like kind of that feel good story. You're also hiring a guy that was victimized by the NFL, and you'd be able, and it might be really good PR, and you're getting a good coach. If those allegations from the Miami Herald are not correct.
Yes.
If he comes out and he's fired after this first year, or they find another title for him that's like executive director of the assistant, to the popcorn maker, then if they find another position for him just so he can stay on staff, then I don't see him being a head coach probably for another 5 years or so.
Okay. I think a lot of this is going to come down to what gets found out in this lawsuit, right? What evidence comes about through whatever investigations are going on into these claims, right? If this is all proven to be true, there's a very distinct chance that somebody, I think, will kind of jump at the chance to get Brian Flores. Again, he's not a bad coach. I just think that personnel-wise, he's not that guy. But coaching-wise on the field, he can be that dude. The X's and O's, get the most out of a player during game time, absolutely. Clearly, again, this is all according to what I've read through the Miami Herald, but according to them, it sounds like practice time, off the field stuff, in the facility, he's not really that guy, right? And there were quotes from the article that said that guys just didn't really know how to get a read on him. One player said, you can't get a read on what his emotions are. And when you can't do that with a coach, it's really hard as a player. And that's the truth. If you can't know your coach as a player, it becomes very difficult to connect with him, which makes it very difficult for you to be able to produce for them. That's why, in some regard, Belichick had to be close to Brady, right? No matter how much their relationship might be kind of like what do you want to call it? Like an accordion, right? It stretches and it collides, stretches and collides, right? And makes awful music from time to time. As much as it does that, no matter what, they do have some sort of relationship. They have this connection with each other, right? To some degree. No matter what we want to say about Nagy and Trubisky, there was something there at least for 1 year in 2018. And then after that, it must have dissolved because clearly if you don't get better, something's gone wrong, right? Is it the coach? Is it the quarterback? It might be both, right? So it's difficult to say where Brian Flores is going to head next, if this is going to be the potential launching opportunity for him. I don't blame Mike Tomlin for making this move. I don't think this is a PR stunt by the Steelers. The Steelers are an organization, I always believe, that they make a move because they believe in the move, because they look at Brian Flores and say, we just had the Defensive Player of the Year. How can we make him better? How can we get this guy to like 25 sacks on the season? Oh, let's get Brian Flores, who might be able to help him become even better. How do we make this defense that much more upgraded? How do we get these youngsters to elevate to the next level? Maybe Brian Flores can do that. Who knows? Well, ladies and gentlemen, when we do come back, we are going to be off the gridiron and moving on to the b-ball court because there is a ton of NBA news we're going to be pouring over, and that's all coming up here on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. welcome back here, ladies and gentlemen, to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. I am still Angel Valentin, and I'm still here with my man TJ Knacker in the back. And folks, we have just talked about the NFL. We went over the Aaron Rodgers cryptic message. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers have more of a problem than we realize, and the update on the Brian Flores being hired by the Steelers and what that could mean for the potential future for his coaching career. And now we make the shift into the NBA because holy cow, there was so much that happened this week in the NBA. But let's start with this. I want to start with this. So we've talked about Zion. Me and TJ actually, last time we talked about the Pelicans, we talked about the Zion being quite a big man himself situation, how he's very overweight. Well, now the reports have come out that he might need second foot surgery, potentially on the injured foot he's had now for the last 2 years now or whatever it's been now in the league and since in college, right? So another foot surgery. He's overweight, and now CJ McCollum gets traded to the New Orleans Pelicans. And we get to the All-Star weekend, and I don't know if you saw this, TJ, but I saw the interview where they were talking to CJ, and CJ McCollum pretty much just let everybody know, like, yeah, I haven't talked with Zion at all. We haven't had a conversation, which blows my mind that the direct quote if I can use that, sorry. And when talking about Zion, things just fly out of my hand for some reasons, much like the donuts should be, in my opinion, with him. So this is what CJ McCollum had to say. He said, I haven't had conversations with him directly. I've spoken with some people close to him and look forward to sitting down with him sooner than later. I know about as much as you do right now, but I'm going to get to the bottom of it. Now, as of this past Tuesday, according to Malika Andrews, CJ McCollum has spoken with Zion Williamson, so they've had a conversation now. Okay? But the fact that they did not talk, First Take obviously had Stephen A. Smith, a very fun mouth that I love to make fun of, was on there, of course. But they also had J.J. Redick, who, if you don't know, is actually Zion Williams' former teammate in New Orleans. And J.J. Redick, to his ever-loving credit, and I love J.J., I didn't love him as a player. He was a bit of a, he's one of the dark boys of, he was one of the bad boys of Duke, with the Christian Laettner kind of stuff and everything. But God knows I love him still. He's not afraid to speak his mind. He knows personalities very well because he was a personality for a long time. But this is what he had to say. This is his quote. Real quick, I'll read it off as best I can. He said, there's a responsibility that you have as an athlete when you play a team sport to be fully invested. You're fully invested in your body, you're fully invested in your work, and you're fully invested in your teammates. That is your responsibility. We have not seen that from Zion. He also goes on to say, this is something I addressed with Zion in front of the team. This is going back to his rookie year. And the big quote, this is the big quote, he said, this is a pattern of behavior with Zion that we are seeing again and again. I was his teammate. I can describe him as a detached teammate. That is an accurate statement. So, and JJ had a lot more to say, but these are kind of just the bullet points of what he had to say that I think really is emphasizing what we now can get a focal point on Zion for, right? JJ is basically saying that Zion Williamson is not committed to the Pelicans, and by that account, he's not committed to basketball. And by J.J. Redick's point, because he's never been like the best player on the team, he's had to work hard everywhere he's gone, right? He always knew, I'm the three-point shooter. I come off the bench. I'm the role player, right? He's never been the clear-cut star starting player. Zion has the potential to be the next face of the league if so chooses to, right? He has the potential to be the next face of the league if he so chooses to. And JJ is basically saying he doesn't want to work, he doesn't want to try, and he clearly doesn't want to click with the team. Folks, when you put yourself above the team, that's a problem. TJ, I'll put it to you, man. With this entire thing going on with Zion Williamson, we've hit this thing. Look, he's got foot surgeries. He's got weight problems. Now we're hearing there's a lack of team chemistry with him being able to be where it's him basically versus the Pelicans, right? Everybody's in except for him. And we've kind of been wondering if this is him maybe forcing a trade or if this is him potentially maybe having, trying to make something happen, a shift like this where CJ McCollum came in. But the report is even coming out that he might not have even been happy with the McCollum trade. But TJ, I'll ask you this, man. Do you think that Zion is really trying to force his way out of New Orleans? Or do you think that that New Orleans has hit a point where they can no longer return and they will just simply have to trade Zion at this point? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think this is an actual problem and probably the poster child for the one and done. You have guys that have been able to go and just, Zion was a big guy. He was able to bully his way through high school. So he was able to get to the rim and dunk. And when he played at Duke, he was by the rim and dunked.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of a sudden now he's playing with the big boys. He's a number one pick. He's, supposedly the savior. And I think there's some doubt now because he goes against, some of these other guys. He goes against a Kevin Durant or he goes like in a Embiid. He says he's going to be down there and he's going to beat up Embiid and, all that. And all of a sudden Embiid says, nope, sorry, buddy, you're still in diapers. Get back over in the corner. So I think that might be the problem is that he's never had to work on his game. Like you said, like JJ Redick was a role player. He came out and when you need a big three, you bring him out. You need a good shooter. He was there. He was a role player. He was the number 3 player on your team. Good guy to have, but not a necessity. Zion was supposed to be that number 1, that center down low, and I don't think he realized how much work it was going to take to be the man that he was supposed to be when he was drafted.
It's always interesting with me and Zion because, look, I say this guy's a unicorn, right? We haven't seen anything like him probably since, Charles Barkley. That's probably the closest comparison you can find to this guy. The problem is that Barkley's body was a little bit like a lengthier look, which helped distribute that 300 pounds that he used to carry around, right? It wasn't like because where Zion, unfortunately, is kind of more bulky. He's a little bit more like closer to the ground, like squashed in 6'6".
Right.
So he's a little bit bulkier. Charles had a little bit more length to him. He was a little bit more of it was 300 pounds, but it was like 300 pounds thinned out almost. He still had the gut, but he could carry it a little bit better. He could fly through the air. Zion can too, but his problem is always that this injury now with his foot is becoming a reoccurring theme. Interesting enough, though, I didn't know this. If you don't know this, he's only played 85 games in 2 years.
Yeah.
85 games. He's averaging in those games 25.7 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, 3.2 assists, I would say a steal a game, 1 steal a game, right? And about half a block a game, a little over half a block a game, okay? So Zion's numbers are solid. They're solid. He can do it. He's only been playing in his career now. He's averaging 31 points a game, 31 minutes a game. So you have to imagine you up that to 36, 38 minutes a game. This guy's probably 27 points, maybe 28 points. He might be running for the MVP. The problem is, though, that clearly Zion, when he's hurt, when he's out, he doesn't want to work, right? This is kind of the Jamarcus Russell thing, for those who don't remember. Jamarcus Russell, when he got hurt, he got fat. He ate. He loved to eat. I mean, he ate even when he wasn't hurt, but when he got hurt, that was when the Raiders got worried about him the most, because when you're not playing and you're not practicing, what are you doing? You're finding every other opportunity to kind of just lounge around and do whatever you want, right? And that was the big worry with him. And what did he balloon up to at one point? He was like 300 pounds himself, I think, right? At one
something
point.
like that.
Yeah, it was insane. And you're playing quarterback. And he was about the same size as Zion. He's 6'6", 6'7". Like, he's right around there. I like Zion a lot. I do, but the weight for me was always a concern. And I know, who am I to talk? Well, I should be one to talk. I'm a heavy dude. I know a thing or two about handling weight. It's not easy. I mean, listen, I'm 5'8". He's 6'6". Like, if you get down to 260, right? If he's 260, the foot injury may not be a problem. Maybe it is. Who knows? But it's probably not as problematic if you're 285 or 275 or whatever, right? He's a powerful guy. He leaps off the ground. But if Zion wants to survive, he's going to have to stay healthy. And right now, he's not proving that. I don't think he's trying to force a move to New York. I think he wants to be in New York, but I don't think he's trying to force a move there. I think, though, he doesn't want to be, but I think he doesn't want to be in New Orleans. I don't think he wants to be in New Orleans. I don't think he's trying to force his way to New York, but I don't think he wants to be in New Orleans. I think he wants to get out because he knows this is kind of a problem. We talked about this before in the draft. I don't know if you remember this. We talked about it in the draft. I compared him almost to kind of Shaq because I thought he's so unique looking. He's got that smile and that look that I thought, like Shaq in Orlando, transcended the Orlando Magic into a market, right? Orlando became the place to go. That became the place to go. It became the place to go. Why? Because Shaq's there, right? That's where you could make. Yes, he went to LA eventually, and that was perfect for him with his marketing and everything. But Orlando at one point was becoming a huge marketing spot because of Shaq. I thought he could do the same. New Orleans is a great town. And if you use it right, you can absolutely take advantage of it. Ask Drew Brees. He made tons of money off of advertisements and all kinds of stuff using New Orleans as his marketing strategy. It worked, but you have to work it. And I think Zion's family, I think Zion himself is implicating this idea that they don't like being in New Orleans. It's not their kind of city, so they want to go to New York, right? This is kind of the thing that a lot of people think is going on with Kyler Murray. People think he doesn't want to be in Arizona anymore because he removed everything Arizona. I don't think he doesn't want to be in Arizona. I think he wants to get paid. But with Zion, I think the case is that he doesn't want to be in New Orleans. I think he does want to be in New York, but I don't think he's trying to force a move there. So I honestly think J.J. Redick's hitting this one on the nose. I really do. If anybody knows personalities, if anybody knows a player, J.J. Redick has been around the league. He's seen them all. He's played with them all, right? He is one of those guys that I'm glad he has a podcast because he tells it like it is, his kind of guy when it comes to the NBA stuff. And when it comes to the Zion situation, I think he hit this one right on the nose. I think Zion is being lazy. I think he's being a little bit egotistical, a little bit arrogant, thinking he's above the team. And because of that, he thinks that he can try and maybe, use this to his advantage to maybe get out of New Orleans and go somewhere else. I don't know if he's forcing it to New York at this point. I don't know. But I do think he's sick and tired of New Orleans. But I'll tell you this right now. If that's the case, New Orleans is probably getting sick and tired of you. If you think you're tired of them, can you imagine the people that are right now paying to go to the Smoothie King Center or whatever it's called and not getting to see Zion? I love Brandon Ingram and I love CJ McCollum, but they're not the star attractions. Let's be very honest. You go there to see Zion. And my guess is it's looking pretty empty in there now with no Zion. So, Zion, just hit the weights, dude. Very simple. Put down the donuts. Stop eating the beignets, right? No more pudding cups at night, right? Get a workout, eat a salad. Let's go, man. All right, so moving into this. All-Star Weekend passed, and it was better than I think it was supposed to be. Dunk contest sucked. Three-point contest was really good. It was probably the star attraction. Rising Stars I thought was good. Skills were bad, right? All-Star Game was better than expected. During the All-Star break, though, obviously, or rather beforehand, obviously at the trade deadline, there was a lot of talk about what was going to happen, moves that were going to be made. And what was interesting was that the Lakers were actually trying to see if they could make a move off of Russell Westbrook. And what apparently happened was that they were going to trade him back to Houston. I know, back to Houston. And in the course of that, they would get back John Wall. The problem was that what was not being mentioned more than anything was that Houston wanted the 2027 first-round pick from LA. LA said no, and they wouldn't pull the trade. Now it has come out that Rich Paul and I believe, I forget the other name, but basically the agents of LeBron James and Anthony Davis at Clutch Sports, which they're under the same agency, are unhappy with the fact that Rob Pelinka, the GM of the Lakers, didn't pull the trade to send Westbrook to Houston for John Wall, which if you don't know, John Wall is a Clutch Sports athlete. Okay? Now, I don't know where they thought this was maybe going to improve the Lakers, other than it was just going to give a guy that would be like really pass happy with LeBron, maybe. I don't know. John Wall's up there in age. He's been hurt now. You know, he's not the same player. He hasn't played at all this season either. He's been sitting around waiting for somebody to make a move on him. So I don't understand why they're upset with this. And listen, I understand that the Lakers are a complete nightmare mess situation. But come on. John Wall's not going to fix that, right? It's not going to fix that. But let's tie this also into this situation. So, on top of that, after the All-Star break, LeBron is asked about, the Lakers situation and everything and what could potentially happen there. You know, maybe possibly, what's his next move and stuff. And it all kind of started with his son, Bronny, right? He says, whoever takes Bronny James Jr., his son, in the draft, that's where I'm going to play my last season. And I believe before that, he stated that, you never know. The doors never closed on Cleveland, right? That was another big thing. And man, LeBron is one thing I got to say is I always respect the man about his game, but this celebrity stuff that he pulls with this kind of stunts, man, this really takes the cake. I don't know. Now, the agents thing I don't think is him per se. I think that is Rich Paul probably being like, get Westbrook out of here and give us John Wall, who will probably feed this team or something like that. But this whole thing about I may move to Cleveland while he's still under contract with the Lakers for another year, and you're talking about moving to another team? I have a problem with that. I have a major problem with that. That is total, I think, guidelines for possible tampering, right? That's total guidelines for tampering. But TJ, I want to ask you a bigger question than that of what you think just about this, because I'll ask you. Let me separate this into two questions, shall I? The first one being, do you think John Wall for Russell Westbrook would have made the Lakers any better? That'll be the first question I'm going to ask you. Then the second question I want to ask you is this. He says that the door's not closed on returning back to Cleveland. But do you think the door is even open at all for LeBron to return back to Cleveland? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so the trade for John Wall, yeah, I think John Wall would have helped them. One, because you said he's been sitting out, he would have been rested. But also, he has never had that taste of that really big, like LA, like commercialism. He's never had that. He's been kind of stuck in Houston. He's been stuck in Washington. He's never been that big marquee guy. So I think he would have been a little easier to kind of control, and also would have been a little easier for them to control with the contracts, with all three guys being under Lakers control. And I think that would have been, I think it would have helped them, because I think Russell Westbrook is not the shooter they want, and it seems like he's just afraid to go in the paint, and there's really nothing to be afraid of in the West.
Yeah,
going down the paint.
To be fair, he's actually, he obviously can score a lot of points. I didn't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to say real quick, he's really not that great a finisher at the basket if you watch him. We've talked about this. He's not really that great of a finisher at times at the basket. He lets it kind of float up there and just lets the ball do his thing. He doesn't really finish. Sorry. Continue, though.
That's all right. So, but what he was good at was actually trying to at least getting to the basket and getting fouled is probably what he was best at.
Right.
He didn't make the basket, but I mean, he got the free throw line.
Mm-hmm.
Now the other one is the door open at the door's not closed for him to go to Cleveland.
Yeah.
But does Cleveland have the door open for him?
Yes.
I mean, you've now had to rebuild after him leaving, not once but twice.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much. I mean, if he's gonna demand that much money, his contract, I don't know exactly when it's up, but I would imagine that some of these young guys who they have under contract would start coming up, and there's going to be no room for a LeBron James that can only play maybe 20, 25 minutes, and only is going to bring 15 points to the game. I don't think there's a spot for him. Would they love for him to come back and do a nice little victory tour and our Hall of Famer from Akron? I think they would love every bit of that. But I don't think they're going to pay the price. I don't think that they really, by the time that he's ready to come there, I don't think that they're going to really want to have that dog and pony show when they've built this team through the draft after he's left twice.
Yeah. No, I totally 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you, TJ. So LeBron has 1 year left on his contract after this. $44 million left on his deal. So if he's going back to Cleveland like next year, ask yourself this question. What in the hell are they going to give up to get LeBron? You don't want to give up draft picks, right? You've been building this team. Darius Garland right now is your top scorer. Jarrett Allen is the key piece on defense. Evan Mobley's going to be your probably rookie of the year. He looks fantastic. Right? He looks like another version of Joel Embiid, essentially, just a little bit slimmer is how I'm kind of looking at him. He's a tough kid. He's good. He's really good. And if you get Colin Sexton back, you got another outside shooter. This team gets really good. By next year, they get really good. Why would you move for LeBron? Now, yes, what's his name? Oh, yeah, Lauri Markkanen kind of plays more of the small forward now for them. Like a big small forward or a stretch four more so, if you will, I guess, for them, right? From time to time. He swaps in and out. But why would you change this team? This team has been really good. They've been so good. I don't understand why you would make that move for LeBron. That's why I asked that question. It's not about is the door not closed for LeBron. Is it even open for LeBron? Because if I'm Cleveland, I would completely avoid moving on him. Completely would avoid. As for the John Wall thing, again, I don't think that would have made the Lakers any better at this point. Right? It's just a guy that would help stat pad, I think, LeBron's stats, get him points, give him assists, rebounds, things like that. He would be just another guy to help kind of LeBron get his legacy to that next level. That's all I could see him as. But the idea of LeBron going back to Cleveland, yeah, that would be great. That would be awesome. Fans would love it. I'm sure even the team would love it. But let me ask you this. Would Dan Gilbert love it? The owner of the...
Yeah, no. No, they burned his jersey twice now. I don't think he wants to see that again.
There you go. That's the answer then. Dan Gilbert already the first time when he left for Miami had a problem with it. And then when he came back, he was like, all right, we won a championship. But then when he heard he was going to leave for the Lakers, he was like, I'm done with this guy. Dan Gilbert's the owner of the team. Why would you want him back? What would he do for this team right now? They are in a playoff position. If things go wrong, God forbid, if things go wrong with the Bulls and the Milwaukee Bucks, they could win the division. This is not out of the question. They're not out of the talk yet. They're a good team. They're not a great team, right? In the East right now, I don't think there's a really great team at this point, right? There's really no great team, but they're very good teams at the top. And Cleveland's one of them. I can't see LeBron going back to Cleveland. And I'd imagine the fans, yes, we're happy. And I know me and David had this talk about it already. But if you listen to that crowd on All-Star Weekend when they did the 75th anniversary announcing, Yes, LeBron got a very big cheer. But who got the biggest one? Michael Jordan. The guy that was killing them for years got the biggest cheer. Because he's one of the most beloved athletes, former athletes, in the world. And I know people are like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Listen, even Cleveland fans are not all that excited for a former Cleveland Cavalier, a hometown kid. They love him, yes, but apparently they love Michael Jordan even more. A former Bull, somebody they should not like. But who could hate Michael? I don't know where LeBron's career is going at this point. I don't feel like the Lakers are going to make the playoffs. I have very little hope that LeBron ever sees another championship again. If you want to play with your kid, good luck. But right now, and you know what? Actually, forget that because we're gonna get to Bronny here pretty soon. Just a little teaser for you folks. We're gonna get to Bronny here pretty soon. Real quick, I want to read these off. Our boy King BMac, he's been hitting us up with some stuff. So back to the Zion stuff. He said, I feel fairly confident saying Zion has played his last game in New Orleans. Totally agree. Think he's done there. He said, we're now hearing about his trust issues with VP David Griffin. Yes, former Cleveland Cavalier, I believe was general manager, now vice president of the team, David Griffin, who's really helped to build this team, who was all for let's get Zion into New Orleans. And now Zion has all types of issues with David Griffin potentially making moves and stuff. I've heard a lot about that. He said, and of course, let's not forget the Pelicans sending out their email for next year's season tickets that mentioned CJ, Ingram, all the other players, and did not mention Zion. And I completely forgot about that. Thank you, BMac. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, he was not on the email sheet. And then he goes, imagine the Bulls sending an email to season ticket holders about re-upping for next season, promoting the team stars, and Zach LaVine's name isn't in there. Or John Morant not being mentioned in the Grizzlies season ticket email. I mean, those guys would be upset as ever, right? If that happened, LaVine's not signing an extension with the Bulls then. No way. John Morant all of a sudden is saying, oh, after everything I've done for Memphis, they're going to do that to me? No way. Not going to happen. Then B-Mac goes on to say, he also says, too, the door should only be closed. They should barricade it closed on LeBron. It's a good point. Yeah. Throw the armoire in front of it, right? Throw the armoire in front of it. Nail the table up on top of it. Put all the planks of woods in front of it. Do whatever you rip up the floorboards and put them on top. Do whatever you can to stop LeBron getting into Cleveland. He thinks he dictates the league, and in a large way, he kind of does. But this is one of those moves where Cleveland should say, No, this door is locked, closed, barricaded up. The spikes are up. The moat pit's up there. We've upped the drawbridge. You're not getting in to Cleveland again. I wholeheartedly agree. And he also says he's already burned them twice, and he clearly doesn't want to develop young players. They're building a nice little core there, and they don't want to nuke. They don't need to nuke for LeBron. Absolutely. And that's always been my biggest thing. LeBron doesn't like playing with younger players. So what would he do if he went to Cleveland? Get rid of all these guys. Let's bring in all my buddies. Old Kyle Korver, old J.R. Smith. He's done golfing, right? Let's bring him back in. Yeah, let's do it. Right? Oh, Dwight Howard, come on over from Los Angeles. I'm not saying he would, but he's never enjoyed playing with the younger guys. It's why they got rid of Zoe. It's why they got rid of Ingram. It's why they got rid of Kuzma. They got rid of all those young guys. Why? Because LeBron doesn't like playing with the young guys. He's like, I got no time for their development. I don't know what to say for LeBron anymore other than Godspeed, man. Godspeed on your career. Because at this point, the Lakers are hurtling towards the ground and look like they're going to smash right into the middle of the ocean. And if you're going to be going anywhere else with your son, I mean, listen, we're going to get into this with his son, but real quick, I mean, we don't even know if his son's going to be a one and done. We assume that. But we don't know if his son's going to be a one and done. What if he's not? LeBron's going to be 39 or 40 years old then by the time Bronny comes out, right?
Right.
How do you play with your son at that level. I would assume he could still probably play pretty well, but who wants that? We'll get into that more as we get into this. So let's move into the next thing. I really wanted to talk about this. So the Knicks have obviously spiraled out of control, right? We got a fan question from one of our guys, Jesse, in New York City, asking if the Nets and the Knicks needed to kind of blow things up. The Nets, we already said, didn't. The Knicks feel like they may have to. And now it feels like more than ever they may have to. For those who don't know, the Knicks have an executive in their front office by the name of William Wesley. Perhaps you know of him, TJ. His name is Worldwide Wes. Known specifically for finding studs such as DeJuan Wagner, whose son is actually the #1 player in the country right now, DJ Wagner. Incredible, absolutely incredible kid. An absolutely incredible player DeJuan was too. Of course, very well noted for finding Derrick Rose as well. Very well known for finding a lot of these star-studded players, right? I believe he was even involved with the whole LeBron thing, finding him as well. So there is a lot that William Wesley has tied into the high school basketball scene, along with the college basketball scene. He's one of those guys that has every connection you could find. And the Knicks hired him, and they looked like a good hire because look at the team they built last year, right? Look at that team they built last year. But now you've got Tom Thibodeau, who's going out there. They're playing like a mess. There's a lot of talk about whether or not these teams are being able to communicate with each other. And this is just per reports, rumors, whatever you want to call them. But it has appeared that William Wesley, in a private meeting with the ever infamous Mr. James Dolan, one of the worst singers ever in the history of music, country music, singing, whatever he does, who cares? But apparently he's been telling James Dolan behind closed doors that all the blame really kind of seems to be going on Tom Thibodeau. A significant amount of blame, in fact, seems to be kind of going towards Tibbs. And I find that interesting. I find this story interesting because obviously we know that Tibbs had his issues here in Chicago, right? It's same coach, different team, right? Same coach, different team. Tibbs wants to run the team his way. He wants to kind of be like a little general manager in his own right. He tried it in Minnesota, didn't work. Obviously, he's much better off as a coach, but he wants to handle the personnel decisions certainly on his own. William Wesley, I think, is a part of the decision-making when it comes to personnel. The Cam Reddish thing was something that Tibbs did not want. He did not want Cam Reddish. I believe the Knicks did it because they thought they could get Zion here. It's not going to happen, I think, right now. Maybe it could down the line. But Cam Reddish has been a nothing player for them. He has been non-existent for them. And Tibbs didn't like it. So my wonder is, what we saw, which for those who don't know in Chicago, for the 5 years, right, that he was here? 5 years he was in Chicago? Like that, 6 years he was here in Chicago. The team went on a great run, right? They were fantastic. They made the playoffs. They looked so good. Derrick Rose is an MVP, all that great stuff, right? They're such a talented group. But what happens throughout the year? We're hearing that Tibbs is starting to get into fights with, well, not fights, but he's arguing with John Paxson. He's definitely getting into arguments with Gar Forman. Gar Forman is very abrasive in that manner. He thinks he's Jerry Krause 2.0, and he clearly was not. You know, although I do think he might have smelled. He looked like a man who might have smelled. Just saying. They said Krause smelled, and I think Forman did smell too. That's just my opinion. But I look at that team and the Knicks, and I think, yeah, I get the same vibe. It's the same thing, right? He wants control. They're fighting back on it, back and forth on personnel. He doesn't like the fact they were interfering. This Cam Reddish thing was not something he wanted. And now it's like, here we go again. I got to take on players that I don't even want. I don't even want these guys. And yet now I got to take them on and try and find out a way to make them work. TJ, I'll ask you this, man, as just a simple question. Do you think that this is the end for the Knicks? I mean, it was a great run last year, but do you think that this does get blown up at the end of the season where Tibbs maybe gets fired, or even William Wesley maybe gets let go and stuff, and this team kind of gets traded away in a bunch of ways and they try to rebuild? What are your thoughts for the Knicks for the future?
So I think that, do I think it will happen? No. I think you still have probably another good year of this give and take, and there may just you know, basically, well, next year we'll be winners, and winning solves everything.
Mm-hmm.
Should it be blown up? Absolutely. Tom Thibodeau is a very good defensive coach.
Yes.
He is good with defenses. As a head coach, he's just too much. He's just too much going at these players. He's too abrasive. You need him. Like, he's perfect as a defensive coordinator, but as a head coach, he cannot. He just seems like one of those guys that's going to fly off the handle, and you can't. You're going to have to go up the ladder to have you have a problem with him, and you're going to Gar, or you're going to, like, in New York, you're going to Dolan. I mean, if you have a problem, and they may not want to hear it anymore, and he's probably, I mean, he's going to say, well, I had success. Yeah, well, I had success with Derek. Ooh, yeah, you kind of did, yeah, but as developing him as a player, if you're a defensive coach, you didn't teach, I mean, no offense, you didn't teach Derek Rose how to play defense at all.
No.
I mean,
not even close.
Yeah. So I think it would be good for them to blow it up, but I think you probably have another year of this. He said, she said, well, he's doing this, and they're doing that, and he's not playing well, and I didn't make that decision, and that's why. I think you're going to have this go round and round for at least another year.
Yeah, it's... God, this is interesting. It really is. I mean, I always forget about that. I don't know why. It's something I've always brought up. When it comes to Tibbs, he's a really good defensive-minded coach, but, man, he could grind his players down to a nub, right? Really. I mean, you think about it, a lot of people say that he's one of the main reasons, or his coaching really, was one of the big reasons why Derrick Rose was able to win the MVP, right? I mean, in the statistics, unfortunately, he does rank as one of the worst statistical MVPs, unfortunately. But he still won the MVP, so props to him, of course. But by that next year, if I'm not mistaken, blows out the knee, right? Next year after that, blows out the other knee. And there's his career right there. It's gone, right? Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is still an incredible player, and I think because of the fact he had to play 40-some minutes for the Bulls at times, he's got incredible stamina. He can go forever. And I know he says, look, I love Tom Thibodeau. I love him. We are good friends still. But he drives me crazy, right? He's one of those friends that, like, I love you, dude, but you make me want to pull my hair out. I know that exact feeling. Trust me. Trust me. It's hard to get a feel for Tom Thibodeau because I feel like he is certainly a good enough coach that can help a team get to the playoffs. I don't know if he's a coach that can help you get over the hump, right? And this Knicks team has pieces in place that you could be competitive. But now we're hearing Kemba Walker is going to be sitting on the bench for the rest of the season, right? And from what I understand, there's no real description to it other than it sounds like it's just frustration from him and the team. And I guess that just means that he's going to be on another team again. Okay, fine, right? RJ Barrett has kind of plateaued as a player. Julius Randle, I like him. God, I want to root for him so bad. I really do. Really want to root for Julius Randle. I think he's a great guy, great player. But, man, he just feels like he's stuck in the impossible situation. He's trying to do everything he can, and he is just off his game for some reason. Emmanuel Quickley isn't getting used enough, I think. Again, Cam Reddish, I don't understand that whole situation. This Knicks team has components there, but it feels like a mashed up mumbo-jumbo bowl of meh. It doesn't feel like a good team. Like, at the end of it, it just feels like a kind of team. They're sometimes good, they're sometimes bad. And right now, they've just been terrible. They've sunk so far. I mean, we've seen it before where teams have had the great turnaround and then the great drop-off. But in terms of, I don't know, the last, 2-3 years, I don't think we've seen something like this tremendous where, like, a team looked like a legitimate contender potentially one year, and then the next year it's kind of like back to the same old stuff. The only other team I can think of would maybe be Carmelo's Knicks, where they were really good and then they kind of really just fell off a cliff. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Knicks. I'm interested to see how this dynamic plays out because William Wesley is not a man that talks a lot. Thibs is a guy that certainly gets loud, but he doesn't talk a lot. So this will be a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that happens, and we won't know anything probably until everybody's done with their positions or has been fired, whatever the case is. So, and lastly, to round out the NBA, we got to talk about it because obviously this was huge news, right? So in New York, Mayor Eric Adams has officially announced that the New York City mandate of wearing masks and having your vaccination card and status being vaccinated to enter into the arena and things like that is eventually going to end soon. Not right away, soon. No specific date, I believe, has been given at this time. But obviously, what does that mean? It means Kyrie Irving might be playing a full game at home. Holy cow, who would have thunk? Who would have knew we'd actually get to this point with what? 23 games left in the season? Ouch. Kind of a bad timing thing on this. Look, first off, I will say this. I say this once again. I'm not going to get into the whole vaccine thing again. I'm going to say this. Not a mandate guy. I never really agreed with it. I always did think it was a little bit of a double standard that the guys who were visiting didn't have to keep their guys who were unvaccinated on the bench or in the locker room, whatever. They couldn't go to the game, right? I always did believe in that, and Adam Silver echoed that too. So I've always thought that was kind of a bit of a, again, it just didn't really ring right with me. But at the same time, now that this could be ending, I don't know exactly what's next for the Brooklyn Nets. Kyrie's still obviously a very good player. We see that when he plays on the road from time to time. But now coming back full time, I mean, KD is still recovering from his injury. And now you don't have James Harden anymore. Now you have Ben Simmons, and you just spent a year building chemistry with that unit. I don't know what happens next for Brooklyn, but TJ, I'll ask you this first. Obviously, when in fact it does lift and he is able to come back full time, there is going to be a significant amount of questions on what Brooklyn has to do to get themselves back in contention on this thing, right? I mean, there's a lot that they're going to have to probably do to make that push. But I'll ask you this in kind of a two-parter thing. Do you think this team can return back to being in the contender discussions for the playoffs? And also this too, do you think that Kyrie Irving could be more of a distraction than a help, potentially coming back full time with or without Durant being in the lineup, whatever the case is? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think that the Nets are going to have to do a lot to try and get back into the playoff race. I mean, I believe they're still in there, but they're, I want to say, the 16th, somewhere around there,
yes.
like 7. Yeah. So I think that they need to do a little bit of work. I don't think it's going to take that much, not as much as people think. But I mean, I will say, I do think it'll make a difference that Kyrie can play all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've had Kyrie playing half the season. He's kind of rested instead of having to be out there for 30 minutes. So he might be a more electric player. Maybe be kind of his old self. And also, with no mandate, he will not have to bring it up in interviews. That's the big thing. Is now he would no longer be a distraction. You go, well, what do you think about it? I really like it. What else is he going to say? Well, I don't believe in those. Well, it doesn't really matter because you can play either way. So please go back to the locker room. I think that the addition of, as I've said before, Seth Curry and Andre Drummond really helped them out, giving them an extra shooter and then giving them an actual center, as Blake Griffith is. He's a good player, but not what he used to be. Now you have a defensive center, and when you end up having like a Joel Embiid come down, at least you have a guy that can at least stop him or at least stay with him and not get bumped around. So, or Marcus Aldridge. Uh, so I mean, I think they can do it. I think if they're all on the same page and you don't have Ben Simmons being Ben Simmons, and you have Kyrie who's going to go to the media and say, "Well, I believe the Earth is flat." They're going to say, if the media say, "That's great, good for you, go play basketball."
Yeah.
If he can no longer be in the media problem, and you have Ben Simmons, at least kind of fall into line and know that this is probably at least strike two for him in the NBA. I think they could do something in the final. I don't know if they'll make it to the finals, but I think they can do something and make some noise.
It's 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 so crazy when it comes to the Brooklyn situation. So right now they're actually eighth. They're in eighth place at this point in time. They're in eighth. Um, Miami, Chicago, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Milwaukee. Milwaukee dropped, and Boston. Those are the top six teams. Toronto is just above Brooklyn. Brooklyn is right now 7 games back from first place. 7 games back, right? They are 31-28. And I have no idea what they're going to do, honestly, at this point. I have no idea. KD's hurt. Kyrie's coming back full time, but he's missed so much time. And I agree. Being rested does help, and I think he will play well. But he's going to have to do the whole 30, 40-point thing by himself because you don't even know when you're going to have Ben Simmons back. Sorry, he gets me hot. I know. Not hot in like a good hot way, like hot like mad hot. Clarify. And I'm not going to go into a big rant on Ben Simmons and all that stuff, but listen, because of the fact that he seems to now be avoiding potentially returning back to Brooklyn at any time soon, and Stephen A. Smith said, if you are trying to avoid the game against the Sixers and your return back to Philly as a Brooklyn Net, that's the end for you. And that to me says, if that's the case, this guy's not an NBA player. I'm sorry. He's not an NBA player. If you can't face the media, if you can't face the fact that you are going back to your old stomping ground where your career started, you can't handle that, to me, you don't belong in the NBA. Right? Durant can clap back at fans and media and all kinds of stuff on Twitter and Instagram and through his burner account and all that stuff, right? But he does go out there and play. He went to Oklahoma City when he was in Golden State and still played his heart out, even though he got booed by people, right? Same thing goes for James Harden. James Harden goes back to OKC when he was in Houston. He got standing ovations, but he also got boos. And it was not the end of the world for him. I think the whole thing of this really centers around when does KD get healthy and where does Ben Simmons play in this thing? If he plays point guard, they're going to lose. The passing defense stuff at the perimeter, that's all fine and dandy. But if you can give us 22 with 12 rebounds and a block and maybe still 6 assists or so, which has been said by the statistical analytics that say if he moved to power forward right now, he could produce those numbers. That's more helpful than being, was he like 16, 7, and 7, something like that anytime in his game. Like he's a good, efficient player, but like at his size with his skill set, you would assume that he should be scoring 25, 8, and 8. He should be doing what LeBron has done in Los Angeles and Cleveland time and time, right? That 39 and 8, whatever kind of number he was putting up every single time in points, rebounds, and assists. This guy should have been, people thought he was going to be Magic Johnson. I always said he should have been Scottie Pippen, but he never had the outside shooting like Scottie, so his game suffered. His game suffered tremendously. This guy should have multiple Defensive Player of the Years. This guy should be in the MVP conversation, but he's not. Why? Because he took the money at point guard over the position and the glory and the possible success that he could have had at power forward. That, I think, is going to be the downfall of the Brooklyn Nets. Where does Ben Simmons play, and when does KD get healthy? And can he be the game changer that we know he is? That's going to be a big telling point. Kyrie's going to do what Kyrie does. He doesn't like following the rules. He likes doing his own thing. One of the best guys in ISO I've ever seen, but he's going to do his own thing. KD's going to have to put up 30, 40 points probably a game in the playoffs. Ben Simmons is going to have to live life as a power forward, or the Brooklyn Nets, I think, are going to suffer. Seth is great coming off the bench. Andre Drummond's good for defense, but he's old, and those draft picks don't mean anything at this point. You're going to have to probably trade him in the offseason for some bench players. Because most likely LaMarcus Aldridge is going to retire. Most likely you're probably going to get, I think Blake Griffin's probably towards the end of his career at this point. I think it's fair to say, right? And I think even Andre Drummond might be considering potentially making a move off of his career, right? Not trying to discourage anybody. It's just the reality of the situation. Those guys are beat up. So what do the Nets look like with Kyrie Irving coming back? Is it better? I don't really think so. Because as far as I understand, he and KD aren't really talking. And I don't know what the conversation is being like between Kyrie and Ben Simmons. Those are two personalities I can only imagine. Can't even imagine what that conversation is going to have to be like. I got TJ all choked up over there on that now. Sorry, TJ. It's just I don't know. I don't know if the Philly thing's gonna work, but I tell you this: Joel Embiid is a good enough spirit, and he's got good enough talent, and he's got that happiness inside of him that I think he can help carry whatever James Harden might be lacking. Right? There's just something about him that you can feel like he'll carry James Harden if he needs to. These guys in Brooklyn, with, by the way, Steve Nash, who's a very still freshly new coach, don't know how this dynamic's going to work. I'm proud that the mandate's coming down. It doesn't dissolve the fact that Kyrie was being selfish by holding himself out, I believe, by not getting the vaccine. It is his choice, but it also does not mean that he is not selfish for not just getting the vaccine and playing with his team as he was supposed to be there for them, right? If we're going to call Zion selfish, if we're going to say Zion's a detached teammate, does that not also ring true then for Kyrie Irving in some regard? I would say so. But everybody has to make their own inferences on everything. I'm just assuming at this point, if this team goes 500, call yourself lucky. Because there's a very realistic chance this team might even fall out of the playoffs. Truly might happen. All right, well, that's going to do it for this second segment, folks. And when we do come back, we're going to reel through these fan questions real quick and answer them. We've got some fun ones for you guys today. Obviously, ask us any questions. It's at xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. And we'll be answering those questions right here next on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. Welcome back, folks, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. My name is Andrew Valentin, and I am still here with my man, TJ Knacker. We just got done talking about the situation with Zion in the NBA, the Lakers situation with LeBron James. Will he move? Will he not? The issue in the Knicks of William Wesley versus Tom Thibodeau. And, of course, we did Kyrie Irving potentially coming back to Brooklyn full-time and what that will mean for the future. So here, folks, we're going to answer your fan questions. To end it off, we've had some wonderful fan questions. I got them pulled up right here. I want to say thank you to the fans. Again, if you want to ask us any questions, email us at xbsportsofficial@gmail.com or hit us up in Twitter or Instagram. You can also hit us up on our Twitch stream. That's right. We're live on Twitch, live on Facebook. Hit us up on those. That's twitch.tv/xbombsports and xbombsports on YouTube as well. You can hit us up in the chats there. If you guys have any questions you want to ask us there, please feel free to do so. So this first question actually comes from our wonderful friend by the name of Ernie. Ernie's been a long time listener from Clearwater, Florida. So Ernie says, guys, I'm a big golf guy. I've been playing golf since I was a kid, and I've really enjoyed it a lot. As of late, I've been listening to all this stuff about the Super Golf League drama that's been going down between it and the PGA Tour. My question to you guys is, what are your thoughts about the Super Golf League drama taking place? Do you think it will succeed? Do you think that it will ultimately fail? I know that the most recent news has said that Phil Mickelson has made some comments. So this is kind of a later email a little bit, but yes, he made some comments. So I was interested to see what you guys thought of that. Your thoughts, TJ? You want me to take the kind of note on this so I can kind of lay down the groundwork for this one? So real quick, so what this is the Super Golf League is what it is in quotes. It's actually it's actually being funded by the Public Interest Fund of Saudi Arabia, which has $538 billion in assets in itself and is funding what's called LIV Golf investments. So it's LIV Golf, essentially, but it's called the Super Golf League. They're also funding the PBL or the PGL, the Pro Golf League, which is kind of right now dead in the water. The LIV Golf, however, has been one that's pretty still alive. But the interesting part about it is that actually this Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia is actually a financial arm of the Saudi Arabian government, which of course has had a huge amount of accusations of human rights violations, which at this point seem to be no longer allegations, but for the sense of this are allegations, let's just say. But clearly very kind of shady stuff. Greg Norman, a former #1 overall golfer, is actually the CEO in charge, along with a few other people that are invested in sports as well, but no one else is listed apparently as a part of this thing. It's a very shady situation. Phil Mickelson has kind of signed up. He has kind of really started to say his piece on it. It really sounds like Phil Mickelson has kind of come out with this thing about maybe being a part of this league, primarily due to the fact that he would really like to have an off season for PGA golf, for the PGA Tour, as well as better financial backing, and the fact that when he doesn't go to tournaments, he doesn't lose out points in the PGA Tour. He doesn't like being told when he can play golf and stuff. So Phil kind of basically signed up with this Super Golf League, which then he made a bunch of comments, which basically were kind of just not exactly I don't want to say them, but you can find them. They're not the best comments to make at the time. And so every player is pretty much kind of backing away. In fact, Brooks Koepka has come out and said, according to the New York Post, he basically came out and said that everybody but Phil Mickelson is happy with the PGA Tour and how things are running. Phil's the only one that kind of seems to be outside of the box on this, which he has been for quite some time, if you don't know. So right now, as it stands, it kind of feels like the Super Golf League actually might be kind of dead in the water at this point, with Phil being the only guy that's kind of considered this, because Dustin Johnson and Bryson DeChambeau have both said that they're not going to be joining up. So, TJ, obviously, I mean, I could go on and on and on with all the information, but just to kind of make it quick, for everything that I've just kind of mentioned here, I mean, it sounds like this thing might kind of be dead in the water. So, but I'll ask you this. Obviously, they've got a huge backing behind them. They signed like a 10-year agreement with the Asia Tour to potentially do a deal there as well. But now we also know, too, that obviously there's some complications going on because of some issues with war and violence now going on in Asia as well. So all of this encompassed, TJ, I ask you, do you think that the Super Golf League thing can actually work? Do you think that there's a possibility there could be another thing that could come about like the PGA Tour? Because from what I understand, it was the mid-'90s where Greg Norman actually, beforehand with Rupert Murdoch, tried to start another golf league that unfortunately decided to fizzle out. It could never get off the ground after they did like an 8-tour event or something. They did like 8-event tour or something like that. But what do you think? Do you think it could actually work? Do you think anything like this could work?
So I actually think that in in concept, it could work. For golfers, they want to have a time off. They want to be able to do this. They want to maybe they're not going to be one of the top 100, and they're struggling, so they want to go over there and they want to get seen. Especially with the Asian golfers, they may have a problem getting back, getting over here for the PGA Tour
Hmm.
and being seen for those, shoe deals, golf, club deals. It would, in concept, it sounds great.
Right.
Unfortunately, you're not in a great area. If you're being funded by the Saudi Arabian government, you are you really are going basically going to have to kind of turn a blind eye to the way that they've done things, good and bad. So then you're also going to have to be concerned about is your safety going to be a problem? Are you going to be able to get from the golf course to the hotel safely without gunmen on the bumpers?
Yeah.
So I would be concerned about that. I would be concerned about traveling, and I don't think so. And Phil, I think it was in concept it was a good idea for Phil because, as we said before, he is ranked 42nd in the PGA. At one point, if he hadn't played in I believe the whole month of May, he was out of the top 100.
Yeah.
He's missed many cuts. He's come out and he's a spokesman for arthritis medications, and that never goes away. That only gets worse as you get
Yes.
older. So I think a nice, dry, arid place sounds good for him. But yeah, you're kind of when you start getting involved with a golf tour that's funded by a government, you may be biting off too much more than you can chew.
Yeah. So myself and David kind of went over this thing. I read through the Golf Digest article that listed everything, all the information on this. It is fascinating everything that you can find about this thing. Holy cow, the amount of stuff. It's also been listed, I guess, as possibly being sports washing. That's something that Saudi Arabia has been accused of. If you're wondering what sports washing is, basically it's where a country that has kind of a bad reputation basically gets into sports and invests into that to basically kind of clean up their image, right? Golf Digest, most notably, uh, kind of connected it to being, if you don't know, 1936 Berlin Olympics. Obviously, during that time, you're talking about Adolf Hitler's in power, Nazi Germany. And if you don't know, there's documentaries about this situation where basically the entire Olympics was a propaganda tool to promote the Nazi image and propaganda of what they were trying to say and do and all that stuff. And to a degree, I hate saying this, but it did work. It did kind of work, unfortunately. I do not like saying that. But in its sense, sports washing does work in a lot of ways. Russia's one of them, right? Russia's one of them. They do it with their hockey leagues. They do it with their hockey players, even. It's a massive problem. And look, Phil Mickelson, I think at this point has reached a point where he's at the I don't care moment of his career, right? It's very much that I think he's just like, I'll do whatever I want. I know he's been upset with the PGA Tour, but I think he's just upset because he's no longer top dog. Yes, he won a tournament. Yes, he had some moments. It was very cool to watch him win, right? But he's just not the dominant golfer he once was. He's not a young pup. He's 50 years old or older than that, I think, even too. Still, like, he's not the young guy anymore. He's not the young gun. I don't know what he's looking for. I don't know what he's hoping to gain from this situation. But listen, you're getting involved with people with a nation that has a lot of human rights violation issues that are going on right now, and you need to be very apparent of that. As of right now, he's lost KPMG and Arnstel Light, two of his biggest sponsors, by the way, losing them. And he's also already said if any sponsors wish to polish with him, they can. So he's also opened the door for the other sponsors to basically say, yeah, no, we don't want to associate with you anymore. I mean, maybe this is Phil's kind of way to just kind of see what he can do to kind of get back at the PGA Tour for maybe what he feels like is mistreatment and kind of walk off into the sunset. He's made a lot of money. He could easily retire and just say, I'm good, right? I don't think he will, but I think we all know at this point, his career is pretty much a lock and he's a lock and solid legendary golfer. Let's be honest. He's one of those guys that we'll remember for a long time. But at this point, I mean, you could be doing more damage to your legacy than certainly good, right? I think he's going in with good intentions, but everything I found everything I've looked up for this thing, they've got no website, they've got no plan, they've got nothing that you can find. They don't even have a list of people for the board. It's just Greg Norman. That's it. That to me, unfortunately, points in the arrows of do not go this way, right? If you don't know who you're investing with, if you don't know who you're working with, or you're not giving that information out to the public, I have a problem with that. The PGL had a website, had a plan, had people on the board. You could find them. You can find that website. You can't find the LIV golf stuff. That's concerning. That's very concerning. And considering what's going on right now, and our hearts and prayers, I have to say, go to the people in the Ukraine right now for what's happening. I'm not going to get into it. I'm just saying all the love and the hearts and prayers out there to those people, because it is. I've seen the videos and the pictures. It's not good. But considering that's going on right now, that's an added element to what's with the situation, because they have the tie to the Asia Tour. That's not going to work out very well. This is not going to be a situation that turns out okay. If Phil can cut ties and run while you still have a chance, do not let this league try to back you. It's just not going to work out. All right, and let's get to our last question, and then we're going to get out of here. So our last question, this comes from Jack. Jack is here in Chicago, Illinois. Thank you so much, Jack, and thank you, Ernie, as well for the question. So Jack hits us with, guys, been listening to you for a while, and I really want to say thank you so much for what you guys bring to the sports world. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it yourself. My question to you is, obviously, we heard the whole comment about LeBron James and him possibly playing with Bronny James Jr. for his final ascension to greatness. I love that. That's a great line. Final ascension to greatness. What do you guys think about Bronny James Jr., though? Do you think he actually is the real deal, the chosen one, if you will? Or do you think that this is just simply a quick fad of him being very popular simply because of who his father is? So, TJ, I'll let you take it away first, man. What do you think? Do you think that Bronny James Jr. is real deal, or do you think that this is just the name of the father carried on the jersey? What are your thoughts?
So as of right now, I think that he is just. I think he's just a fad right now with the name, with his father's name.
Okay.
Only because he's only 6'2". Now that being said, we looked it up earlier. LeBron was 6'2" at the same age, but
Right.
his senior year he grew like 6 inches.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden now you have a guy who can shoot the ball, who's 6'7", 6'8",
Mm-hmm.
and is a little more muscular and be able to get in the paint, can shoot, and also can muscle down low. So now all of a sudden you got a beast.
Right.
If he doesn't hit that growth spurt in the next, I'd say 6 to 8 months, then yeah, I'm gonna have to say that he's just a fad. That he's gonna be a good player, but he won't be able to play like his father.
Yeah.
He's just gonna be a nice shooting guard. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and he may be one of those. He may be the Seth Curry to Del Curry.
Okay.
He's a good shooter. He's a good guard. He plays really good defense. But I can only see him being a perennial all-star if he does get that 6 to 7 inch growth spurt in the next probably. Well, I mean, I'll give him more than that. I'll give him a year and a half or so before he's done with the one and done.
Okay. All right. I really would love to say that this kid is the real deal. Problem is though, is that the more and more I watch him play, I don't get the confidence in him that he's going to be that overall stud player. He's a good player. Let's be very honest. He's a good player. He plays really well. He seems like he could be a guy that once he gets to the NBA level, if he's got it all right, and certainly if he has a little bit of his father's magic in him, he could certainly be very good. But right now, as far as Bronny goes, so he's on the 2023 recruiting list, right? He's on the 2023 recruiting list. Again, Dewan Wagner's kid, DJ Wagner, is the top kid in the country, and he's fantastic. He's going to be a top 10, top 5 pick easily. He's so good. Uh, and he's not as big, by the way, either. He's not as big. You have JJ Taylor, who's one of the local kids from here, who's now playing in California for Donda Academy. Donda, by the way, has really been kind of grabbing those players left and right. By the way, too, Mikey Williams, who's kind of a popular player you might find on social media on here, as well as is a very highly rated player, too, who's also getting a lot of talk for recruits and stuff like that. But Bronny is actually 34th ranked in the 2023 class at this point. 34th. He's not top 5. He's not top 10. He's 34. His ranking right now is a 4-star recruit, and he's at a 98.9841 ranking. Okay. As of right now, his teammate Amari Bailey is actually considered to be better than him, the former Illinois native that moved to California to play in Sierra Canyon with Bronny and a few other stars. But he's one of the better players right now on that team at this point in time. Also with him is Kajani Wright, another top player as well. Both of them which outrank Bronny James at this point. I mean, at this point in time, I mean, listen, in their last game, from what I understand, he only scored like 4 points against Harvard Westlake. It's not a good look. Not a good look. And as far as I mean, listen, Bronny right now has 5 schools down pat, right? It's Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, UCLA. Oh, shocker, the Blue Bloods. Like, who would have thought, right? Who would have thought? Right now, though, if you ask The Spun by Sports Illustrated, The Spun actually has 3 guys that they would compare right now to Bronny James as far as a player at this point, okay? So they have listed DeAnthony Melton, if anybody remembers him playing for the Grizzlies. Not exactly a standout player, but nevertheless, at his current frame is kind of the comparison they're looking at. Ayo Dosunmu is another one, which Ayo's a little bit bigger, but obviously it's possible. And if he continues to grow, it could also be Lonzo Ball, which, that's not bad. That's not a bad comparison. But you're not talking about a star. That's the thing, right? Ayo right now, he's a good bench player, right? Lonzo, he's a starter, but he's like your number 3 player on the team, maybe number 4, right? Not your go-to guy. So I think by that account, and this is just going by the articles and all that stuff and what I've seen, I think he's a good player. I think he'll go in the first round, somewhere between 20 and 30. He won't be a lottery pick. If he is, it's because somebody thinks that they're going to get the LeBron sweepstakes, and that's going to help their team somehow. It's just not. It's just not. You're putting a lot then on that kid's plate. I don't think he's going to be that good. Put him at 20 to 30. Let him be a bench guy. Let him develop. Let him get better, and let him come along at his own pace. My fear is that he's going to have to try to live in the legacy of his father. And the only other guy we know is actually Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. that played with each other. And TJ, I believe you said you know a thing or two about exactly what went down with them, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, actually, Ken Griffey Jr. was struggling down in the minors and was struggling to kind of live up to the Ken Griffey name. And there was to a point that he actually tried to commit suicide because he couldn't handle the pressure of living under his father's name. And it was maybe 2 months before he got pulled up, and he was struggling. He was supposed to be the number 1 prospect, and he just struggled out of it. So, I mean, we could see the same out of Bronny, and that may actually be the reason why LeBron wants to be his first teammate, is so he can say, okay, hey, I did my own trailblazing. I'm going to show you how this is and how to live up to the name. That's the only thing I can think of. And that would help him out, because if he's somewhere like, let's say, New Orleans, and he's by himself, I mean, he could run into the same problem as Zion, or he ends up in New York by himself, and that media is just going to absolutely just cut him apart. So I think that it would be a good move for LeBron to be there, but I don't know if he ever makes it to the NBA at 6'2".
I was gonna say, yeah, I think that I mean, I forgot about that story. Yeah, I remember hearing about that with Ken Griffey Jr. That's a good point. That's a good point. Like, yeah, you hear that story, you think about that, the struggle of coming up, right? You're the son of a legendary player or a well-known player, right? And you're trying to create your own legacy. Yeah, maybe your dad shows you a little bit of guidance, right? That's not a bad thing in the world by any means. By any means, that's not the worst thing in the world. But I don't know. I guess my just concern is that LeBron is doing this to primarily try and promote teams at the top to try and draft his son. I don't think that's the case. I do think he's trying to be sincere about this. And I hope that is the case. Like, I want to guide my son. If that's the case, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. Just don't overshadow your son. Let your son become a star if that's the way you want it to be. Don't force it on him. Don't force it on him, but help him grow as a player. Help him feel out what the NBA is like so he gets a feel of it. And then when you retire and leave, you said that's your last year, then you go, Bronny, it's on you. You figure it out. You need me, call me, right? Hey, he's a loving dad. If you're going to say anything, he's a loving dad. He loves his son. He wants his kids to succeed, and I respect him for that totally. I really do. I just hope that this is not something where you're trying to guide your son or interfere in any way with his career to try and see if you can make him big time. Let him grow at his own pace. Let him be his own person. And he carries LeBron James Jr. as his name, but let him just be Bronny. That's all I have to say. And that's going to do it for our show here, folks. I know this was a long one. I apologize. We just had a lot we had to get to. This is kind of a little makeup for what we missed on yesterday's episode. But I hope you guys did enjoy this. TJ, as always, my man, thank you so much for manning the back seat there, manning the board. I appreciate it so much, man. It's always a pleasure to talk sports with you. Thanks so much for being a part of this too, man.
No problem at all.
Please, man, please let the people know where they can listen to you, find you, all that good stuff, man.
Well, I'm a Knack300 on Instagram, TJ Knacker on Facebook, and you will find me normally in the back on Blow the Whistle and on XBOM on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Absolutely. Guys, make sure to go follow Knack300 on Instagram. He's got some great knowledge. If you guys got any questions, hit him up there. He knows his stuff when it comes to sports. He's got a plethora of knowledge that he can definitely work with. So if you have any questions, please hit him up there. Guys, if you want to follow me, I'm also at The Fluffy Guru on Twitter. You guys can also find me at Boom Crew Captain on Instagram as well. So make sure to go follow me there for any questions or comments you want to ask me directly. Make sure to follow us on our Facebook page. Like and follow our Facebook page. You guys get updates on the show when we go live, the live stream links, all that kind of stuff. So make sure to keep an update on that too. Also, too, we go live on Twitch, twitch.tv/XBombSports, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And we also do it on YouTube now as well, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Central Time, too. Just look up XBomb on YouTube, and you will find our page. It's the bomb page. You can't miss it, okay? Also, as well, make sure to go check out our social media. Follow us there at XBombSports on Instagram and on Twitter. And if you have any questions or any comments, anything like that you want to ask us as well, please make sure to hit us up at xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. We want to hear from you guys, all the great questions, comments, the crazy things that you throw at us. We appreciate it so much. We're going to keep answering your questions as we plug along here through the next couple of weeks because we're going to have some downtime, so we're going to be able to answer a few of these questions and play some games potentially. I know you guys want us to keep doing the player swap thing, so we'll keep that going on as well. Also, too, check out Blow the Whistle. It's a radio show that myself, David, and Tyler do every Monday, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. Central Time. So check it out there on sportstownchicago.com. And then check us out on Tuesdays as well, 2:30 to, I screwed that up. 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time on the radio station, sportstownchicago.com. And then 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. Central Time on the TV show right here on the Twitch page, twitch.tv/XBombSports, and on YouTube as well, XBomb Sports on YouTube. You can find us there as well. Also, too, check out Monday Motivation with Hannah B. It's a wonderful podcast on Spotify, Odyssey, and iHeartRadio done by our very own Hannah Brummer. She does an amazing job doing a podcast that helps you stay positive and upbeat throughout the day. So you need some help on Monday because we all know Mondays suck. Make sure to go check out Monday Motivation with Hannah B. And then also, too, catch her on the radio. She's at 102.3 XLC The Drive. She does the afternoon drive from 3 to 7 p.m. Central Time. So if you guys want to hear her on the radio because she is killing it right now, go check her out. She's doing amazing stuff out there. Much love to you, Hannah. We love you so much, and we hope that you're doing well. We'll get her back on the show at some point, guys. I know you've been asking for her. Well, at some point when she's not as busy. She's a celebrity now, so we'll get her back on here. Love you still nonetheless, Hannah. Also, guys, too, make sure to check out The Parlay. If you guys don't know The Parlay, it's our guys, Tony Lopez and former professional boxer and Chicago Bull, Kendall Gill, talking everything combat sports, boxing, MMA, every kickboxing, all kinds of stuff. Great interviews, great personnel, all kinds of great things. It's at theparlay.com. Go check it out, guys. Great content there. Also, too, check out Fake Football Guys as well on YouTube. It's our guys, Justin and JC and Dustin. Jesus, I screwed that one up. JC and Dustin doing the thing. Fake Football Guys on YouTube. If you want the best knowledge for your fantasy football needs, go to the Fake Football Guys on YouTube, and you guys can see them doing their thing as we produce their show. And also, too, make sure to go check out the boys at Sharp Action Show. That's at Sharp Action Show on Instagram. It's done by our very own guys, Dan, Anthony, and Marco. Great show. If you want your best bets for the possibility of being in the sports world, getting those sports bettings up, you want to get the best knowledge, it's Sharp Action Show, guys. They do an incredible job. Me and TJ have been doing great work with them. We're killing it right now. Make sure to go check it out, guys, as they do their live streams and stuff. We're looking into that. Otherwise, catch them sharpactionshow.com as well on their website, and Sharp Action Show on YouTube as well. And I think that's everything we've got. And I think that's going to do it for us. It's been a long couple episodes here, or a long episode here. But thank you all so much for watching. And as always, much love. Peace out, Boom Crew.